6,000 septic systems, also known as brownfields, where all the excrement, the wee-wee and the poo-poo, is leached into the ground. 6,000 septic systems on the bedrock basin at Lake George. 6,000. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a native of Harris Bay. Our family built the largest marina on the lake, the Swamp, the East Shores Harbor. Today called some kind of crap about the Yacht Club. My mother and father, Clifford and Anita Witham, built the East Side Marina at Harris Bay in the 1960s, where my mother and father exposed the massive leaching of sewage into Lake George. Back in the 1960s, that would be 60 years ago. Not Eric Sly, not John Stroh, and as much as I love Kathy Bozzoni and her pictures, the poisoning of Lake George was not exposed by the Darren Fresh Water Institute or Kathy Bozzoni or Chris Nowinski. Chris Nowinski didn't have the original honor of exposing the massive poisoning of Lake George by those 6,000 septic systems, the leach fields, the excrement-filled brownfields that sit on top of all the bedrock. Now, long before John Stroh began teaching at Queensbury High School, and long before Tom West became a lawyer, Clifford and Anita Witham and friends were exposing the massive leaching of sewage into Lake George in the 1960s. Now, this old kind of like that beard, don't you? That's a good beard. I used to work for all the contractors on the lake. After my mother and father passed away, I worked years on Lake George for like Alger Mason and Scotty McLaughlin, the Rothermells, the Bushies, John Matthews, Olaf Ronnie from Bolton Landing. I worked for several other contractors too, like Northern Homes, that would be Louis Carasone, and that whole investment group that built lots and lots of those lakefront homes and septic systems on Lake George. Now, to the Adirondack Almanac and the Adirondack Explorer and the Lake George Mirror and the Post-Star and the Albany Times-Union and Channel 10 Spectrum News in Albany and all the other local news, from the Glens Falls Chronicle to the North Country Gazette, the massive leaching of sewage into Lake George because of the bedrock conditions were exposed by my mother and father. Not the Jefferson Project, not RPI University. My mother and father, Clifford and Anita Witham, who built the largest marina on the lake. Now, you know, septic inspections I guess they're kind of cute and they're sort of fuzzy and all, but here's the bottom line. Here's where the rubber meets the road, if you will. All of the pathogens, all the bacteria, all the viruses in the sewage in those 6,000 septic systems are leaching into Lake George. That's the bottom line. It's not just phosphate and nutrient loading, I'm sorry to say, but you've got a massive contamination of pathogens going into the recharge zone all around Lake George. Now, I've reached out many times to Warren County Board of Supervisors, Miss Bramer. I've reached out to Kathy Bozzoni. I've reached out to Dennis Dickinson. Hell, I've even gone round and round and round with Sheriff James LaFar. James LaFar knows damn well, and David Wick over Lake George Park Commission. David Wick at the Lake George Park Commission, he knows all about Judson Witham's raising hell, about the 6,000 septic systems malfunctioning on top of all that bedrock. The septic system's all up and down the Pilot Knob Road. The septic system's all over Rockhurst and Cleverdale and Assembly Point and the Dunham's Bay area, all the way back to the Garrison and the Airport Inn and the East Cove. I guess that's the name of that restaurant there, where mothers used to stand on the corner. All of those septic systems all the way up Millionaires Row that are on the lakeside of Route 9N, all of it. All the ones on 9L, all of them, ultimately and unfortunately leach into the recharge zone of Lake George. Now, I've got a couple questions for the news media, the Adirondack Explorer, the Almanac, Lake George Mirror. Why is it that Clifford and Anita Witham's exposing this environmental nightmare? Why has the name Witham been censored out of all these stories? Why is it that the Withams are to be excised out of the account of the 6,000 septic systems on bedrock that, I'm trying to remember the name of that real estate company, Jeffries, there on Cleverdale. I can't remember the name of the real estate company, but they were talking about all the bad press that these issues were getting, the bad press. Well, I happen to be the bad press, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I happen to be the bad press. And Billy Mason, Richard Mason, Bobby Mason, John Mason, the McLaughlin family, the Penzels. I can go all day long naming names. The Matthews, the Bushies, the Bushes, all over Lake George, from Rachel Ray and Richard Ray, her brother Richard, and the old alumni at Lake George High School. They know very, very well that this kid here, I used to ride bus 13, driven by a wonderful man by the name of Curly Allen, and grew up on Harris Bay. I know that lake as well as anybody. Eric Sly, Novinsky, Bozzoni, all of them. John Stroh, I know the lake as well as the Stewarts and the Bartletts and, the Pontiffs and the Rhodes. 6,000 septic systems built on top of bedrock. It doesn't take a second grader to figure it out. One more time. It doesn't take a second grader to figure it out. And that's going to David Wick at the Park Commission and Basil Sagos at DEC. All of the flushing, all of the wintertime drawdowns, all the flushings of the lake, David Wick, Basil Sagos, that all needs to be explained. Why are you flushing the lake over and over and over and over and over and over with the up and down, up and down, up and down ice sheet and snowpack? The up and down waters of winter and early spring on Lake George. What's up with the up and down waters from late fall to early spring on Lake George during the drawdown, also known as the flushing of Lake George? Yeah, they flushed all this stuff for decades into Lake Champlain. No wonder Lake Champlain's green, huh? It's not just Lake George with algae blooms. No. It's Champlain is horrifically contaminated with sewage from Ticonderoga Creek, also known as the La Chute River. The poop chute, where they flush Lake George again and again and again and again and again and again and again. And RPI University, Jefferson Project, Darren Freshwater Institute, Lake George Association, Fund for Lake George, DEC, all the news media, the Post-Star, y'all got a lot of questions to answer, and you got a lot of explaining to do. So all the links and information on flushing Lake George and dumping all the sewage in Lake George are available below. And if you got any questions, y'all know how to get a hold of me. Don't play like you don't know how to get a hold of me.